thank you. Steve, thank you very much. It has been a privilege to get to know you over the course of the years, not the years. Hell, it just seems like I've been here years now. It does, and from a sense of, not in a negative way, it's just been over the course of these 5 months, there's just been this onslaught of information coming my way as we've tried to put a team together. As I see the members of Congress and the Senate that are here, Mr. Chairman, Senator, Congressman, thank you all for being here in particular. I'm telling you, you all don't have a greater set of advocates anywhere than those three sitting right there. So give them a little love. Senator Cantwell was pretty direct with me during our, and that's a good thing, let me tell you, about coming out to Washington State, to see Hanford, to see this site, to see Pnnl. Truly a person, and obviously Brother Newhouse, this is his district. And he is passionate about what goes on here. And I might add one other person that I've gotten to know very well over the course of the last few months is Jim Mattis, who grew up here, whose dad worked across the way, and I think whose mom still lives in the area. So this is a part of the world that I knew nothing about until about 5 months ago. And I started getting a crash course in this part of Washington State. And this morning, it really came home to me. Sitting out across the way, watching the sun come up at 54 degrees. It was awesome. I made a decision I've made I think a discovery that possibly whoever was the genius behind where they put national labs, you think about, they're in some amazingly beautiful small communities across America. I've been to Oak Ridge and up to Idaho Falls and here and Richland. These are beautiful cities, and I understand now a lot better. It's not just because there's some really cool stuff you all get to do, and we're going to talk about that a little bit here, but it's also because you all have the opportunity to live in some of the most glorious places in America. So you're... Los Alamos, NETL, and their two campuses, we've been to those, and I think I shared with you already that to WHIP, which is not a national lab, but some of those facilities that we operate and that we oversee. And I told, my wife always kind of gives me the blues about, today I wore something not black, because my wife thinks that's the only thing I own is black shirts and black pants. And I told her, I said, well, I fit right in with Johnny Cash in that old song, I've been everywhere, man. And each of these labs that we've had the privilege to visit, I've been incredibly impressed with the men and women who work there. That's the real, those are the jewels. Yes, I've referred to the national labs as crown jewels, they are, but it's the men and women who work there that are the real jewels. It's the passion, it's the incredible intellect, it's the quality of the contractors and all of you that get to refer to yourselves as DOE employees. And I'm privileged to be a part of the team. Most Americans think about innovation economy, and they think about companies like that start with A, and they think about technology that we have. I think about Pnnl, the innovation, Steve, that has come out of here, that's going to come out of here. It's not just the things that you get to see maybe every day that affect people's lives in a positive way. It's the safety and security of the world that you're working I've said at a number of labs, nobody in this audience or anyone who works in this, on this campus has to worry about getting up in the morning and wondering whether you're consequential. You are. And the work that you're doing is really important. And we probably live in the most complicated time in human history. I'm thinking that may be the case when you look around at what's going on, and certainly as this area was transitioned from a quiet little farming community into the work that was done on that Hanford site and that continues to be done in this area. And the Cold War was a complicated period of time. But I'm pretty sure that we may live in even a more complicated period of time today. The threats that we face as a people, concepts that a few decades ago really weren't comprehensible. Concerns like the Iranian threat that we see out there, the violations of the North Koreans, the threat of nuclear proliferation, terrorist organizations that could deploy a dirty bomb into our country, and we know that there are these threats, and they're seeking increasingly dangerous weapons. You got state sponsors of terror. So, we live in a dangerous world, and you all and what you're doing is incredibly important. And I think it was President Reagan who said, trust, but verify, and you're the verification. You're who he was talking about when he made that statement some decades ago. Your work saves lives. It's as simple as that. And that is an incredibly important and powerful statement that I make that's not only heartfelt, it's also deeply ingrained in me now as I've traveled across. And I was a pilot in the United States Air Force in one of my previous lives, and I recognize the value of advanced technology, of the ability of what you do, and the tentacles that go out across the world from the Department of Energy. I'll share with you, Mr. Chairman, one kind of, when I first started really getting it about DOE's footprint and how broad it is, how deep it is, I went on my first international trip to represent the United States, I think in either April or May, to the G7 in Rome. It was a fascinating and interesting opportunity to go share with the world this administration's view about how we were going to engage in the debates that were occurring. And anyway, on my way home, I'd got on a plane, changing planes in Germany, and a young family was coming on the aircraft, and the fellow, he did a double take. And Senator, I don't know, sometimes that when some people see me and they recognize me, was it because I was the governor of Texas for 14 years, or, I ran for president twice, or I was on Dancing with the Stars? I work with you. And I reached out and I said, well, I hope you're happy about that. And he said, oh yeah. And so I said, listen, when we get leveled off, I'll come sit down and visit with you. And I did. And I went over and introduced myself to his little family. And he was headed back. He works in Paris. And I found that to be really interesting. I said, well, what do you do with the DOE in Paris? Who do you work with in Paris? And his answer was Interpol. And those of you who work here and the work that you do, making sure that radioactive materials are tracked around the world, and all of that started really making a lot of sense to me about the importance of what this agency does. The work that you are doing on in the M-Wave research laboratory, you're developing advanced technologies to detect EFPs and these other lethal threats to our troops. I mean, literally saving lives. Many of you have either have served. The DOE is kind of a fascinating place in the sense of, I think we're approaching 40% of our DOE employees are veterans. And a lot of you have friends and neighbors and kids that are over serving in dangerous places in the world. And what you're doing with this type of technology really matters. And anyway, one of the reasons I wanted to come today is not only see what you do and to gain even more information and knowledge about what the Department of Energy does, but to say thank you. Thank you for the service to our nation. And for that matter, thank you for the service to the world, because so many things that you all are involved with, our allies and count on to be involved with. And there are other aspects of the work that you do here that's affecting grid modernization. We went over to McNary and that dam and the electrical. Being a boy from Texas, I don't know much about hydro, right? That's not, but to understand that, to get a grasp of the complexities of that river system and the ability to protect a lot of different interests there. And that grid modernization work that we're going to be able to do, the threat to this nation, again, it goes way past just the historic threats that we think about, weapons of mass destruction. Threats to our electrical grid, and to lose that ability to power big portions of our country, and our being able to deal with that. The damage that could be done to the health and the welfare of this country is substantial if we lose our ability to protect and keep that grid. The American economy could be devastated. So I go back to, and this is one of the stories that I am going to tell until I have no breath left about what Department of Energy and the men and women involved in this agency are doing about keeping this country safe. The fascinating innovation that comes out of Pnnl, battery storage, and we BAT 500, and we saw the work today and what Judd and his collaborators are down there all involved with. I tell people, I said, that's the holy grail of what I consider to be energy research, is that storage work that you're doing right here. It's fundamentally changed how we power our lives, and it's just pretty darned exciting to be on the front edge of that and leaning into it as you all are. So anyway, lots of other practical uses of your research, Pnnl. Tomorrow, actually this afternoon, we're going to get over to the Hanford site, and the work that you're doing to clean that up today, and Allison, and what you all are doing in your shop is just some. That's the kind of work that people expect us to do. Do it in a timely way, do it in an efficient way, do it in an economically acceptable way, and that's our challenge. That's our goal. I think it's important for us to be really open and honest with the American people about what we're doing on this issue of nuclear waste in particular. And I'm not interested in kicking the can down the road anymore. I think we've made that clear to our friends in Washington, D.C. that we need to deal with this. We can no longer just, leave it to the next administration, leave it to the next group of people to deal with and kind of slow play it, slow walk it, slow talk it. I aim to achieve real progress and clean this Hanford site up, taking care of the men and women who are over there working, protect those individuals who are in, in hazardous work. You're groundbreakers. And let me kind of capsulize this and put it in context. There may not be, we may be at a most important juncture in American history when it comes to energy. And America is on the cusp of an era of energy dominance. For too long we were relied on sometimes countries that didn't have our best interest in mind. And those energy sources that run our grid, that run our engines, that run our economy, that run our lives, and that's changing. And we've been blessed in that sense that we've got these resources. And in this area, we see it. Whether it's hydro, whether it's nuclear, whether it's gas, whether it's solar, whether it's wind, it's this region. And you all see this from the standpoint of across the river in your district, Mr. Chairman, and what's happening over there on data centers, the jobs that are being created because you all have really focused on having a very abundant and an all of the above, if you will, approach to energy, and that's really important. We're developing a vision for North America, and this isn't just about the United States. This is really about Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And I'm bringing together my counterparts from Canada and New Mexico in November to talk about this strategy for North America so that this region becomes truly a dominant and independent energy producing region. And we're net exporters now of natural gas for the first time in over 60 years. And as I think Steve, you mentioned that while I was the governor of Texas, we saw these emissions go down substantially. We saw this transition away from older, inefficient plants to cleaner burning, and the cost of power went down as well. I mean, it's just, these are the types of things that energy dominance and energy diversification can do for this country. And we've got to, I think it puts America in a really interesting and a powerful place from the standpoint of, I don't apologize to anybody for America being strong economically, militarily, and energy policy is going to be at the heart of that. We're a big part of the President's vision about having an America that's strong economically, militarily, energy-wise. And this agency, this laboratory, is going to be very critical as we go forward. The next big thing that affects this world full well, I think, will come from a national lab. And the potential for it coming from Pnnl is very high. I've said a number of times, the best job I ever had in my life was to be the governor of the state of Texas. But the coolest job I've ever had is to be the Secretary of Education. And you all know this. Those of you that have worked here for years, or whether you've been here for just a couple of months, you know you're at a special place. And it's because of the men and women that populate this laboratory. I'm proud to be a part of your team. I look forward to what we're going to do together. And it's going to be a really awesome ride. God bless you. Thank you.
All right, we had, is this on? We'd gathered a few questions from staff. We had a long list. We've got that down. We have a little time here, and
how are we on time? How are we on time?
We have an hour or two, you said? Good luck getting us off stage.
I'll know whether to filibuster or not. Okay.
So the first question from our staff is, what surprised you most about Pnnl specifically, and what has surprised you the most about the laboratory system in general?
I'll tell you what's really the most interesting thing, and again, I think this is my 5th lab that I've been to, but this one has a different feel to it. And what I mean by the different feel, the campus, this almost has a collegiate feel to it. And that's, I'm not saying other ones don't have nice feels, but Los Alamos is different. And well, it is. I mean, well, I'll be hearing about this for a while.
How different is it, sir?
Yeah. No guns, no gates, no guards. But, you know, everybody has a different role, and you know, Los Alamos has a very important, and that work that they do over there. Anyway, back to where we were here. Well, they say when you're in a hole, quit digging. It's all good. Now, this is not what I expected to see when I came. I'd had a pretty extensive briefing on Hanford about and seen the visuals of it from up above, taking a look, seeing what is going on over there. This is a very different campus, and Pnnl. I understand why people want to come to work here every day. It's got a good feel. It's a very comfortable. Showcasing this place when I don't know if I'm pointing the right place or not, but the facility that you're going to finish up in the spring.
Discovery Hall.
It's going to be a great opportunity for us to bring international partners, people from the corporate world here, to expose them to a really beautiful campus. So I'd suggest to you that's the thing. And just as the national labs, part of it is their diversity and just how different. And again, I'm a third of the way through seeing all these labs, but I'm pretty sure what I'm going to find is when I go to Princeton or when I go to Argonne, when I go to Livermore, that I'm going to see a diverse product of opportunities. So that doesn't necessarily surprise me now, knowing what I know, but yeah.
Okay. Second question is, what is the best way for federally funded fundamental science research to improve the national economy, and is this a priority of yours?
Yeah, I think we have we have interesting conversations in Washington about, budget and priorities, and you hear a lot of talk about, the grid. You hear talk about the modernization of the weapons, and all of that's important. And there will be things that move up and down on a priority list, from administration to administration, I will suggest. History probably proves that up pretty well. But here's the one thing that I think we need to really stay focused on as a country, and that's on making sure that we are funding appropriately basic research and basic science. Because at the heart of what we do, what the heart of what the Department of Energy is about is on basic research and basic science. Because that's the foundation of which all these other really cool and awesome things that you all are out there working on is based upon. So that's my, that's certainly what you're going to see out of me. Basic science and funding of basic science cannot be underserved.
Thank you very much. Our third question is, having now visited 5 of the labs, as you noted, what are your top priorities in further advancing our various missions in delivering world-class science and technology solutions?
Well, again, going back to the issue of funding basic science, I'm going to give you the same answer on that one, keep it short. So what's your fourth question?
Question number 4. As supercomputing advances...
I generally stop after 2.
Oh. I'm getting
I
conflicting
can't remember the
advice.
third
Thanks,
one
Dan.
a lot of times.
All right. As supercomputing advances push the boundaries of science and technology development, what is DOE's role in helping the U.S. to advance in exascale computing and beyond?
Yeah. I think our focus on funding our supercomputing, getting our exascale capability and beyond is incredibly important to the country. Our ability to manage the data that is out there is inextricably intertwined to America's role in innovation and leadership and the security of this country. So all of that work that you all are doing on the supercomputing side of taking us to that next level, if you will, is incredibly important. And obviously the funding of that, and we've talked about that in a number of venues before, our ability to be as competitive as there is in the world in our computing capability. And the world changes in a hurry. I mean, that old saying about one day a peacock, the next day a feather duster is really true in this world we live in today. It's complex, it's fast moving, and there's a lot of competition in the world. Our ability to compute at incredibly fast levels and to keep ourselves in the top ranks is very important to the future of this country. So, and again, national labs are going to be on the absolute cutting edge of that. Our ability to partner with our private sector corporate partners is going to be very important. Our allies in the world that we're going to be working with. So I mean, there's some great partnerships that we have out there that we need to use to the best of our ability. But this, again, there may not be anything as important in the whole mix as our supercomputing capability.
Well, I think we're out of time. Mr. Secretary, thank
Great.
you very much for taking the
Hey,
time
thank
to
you
visit
all.
our laboratory.